Now we can see it.
Ah, perfect. Okay, I'm glad I asked. All right, so thank you guys all for coming to my session today. We're going to talk about building a bot and how to do that by using the features that are part of Copilot Studio. And I have a lot to cover and only 40 minutes to do so. So we're going to get right into it. But before I do, I did want to introduce myself real quick to you guys. My name is Dian Taylor. I work for RSM here in the United States as a director, a pre-sales director, which basically means excuse me, that I get to play around with Dynamics 365 and Copilot and building apps and all the Power Platform cool tools that we have and show that to customers. So I'm also a Microsoft MVP, so I try to put a lot of content out there on my website. You can also follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter, or check out my YouTube channel as well. So definitely, if you're interested in that type of information, definitely make sure you do that. So again, these are all the things that I'm gonna hopefully going to be able to cover today. So there is a lot of stuff, right, inside of Microsoft's Copilot Studio. So let's just go ahead and dive right in, right? So the first thing that I kind of wanted to mention is the fact that organizations can actually configure Copilot and get it up and running in a matter of minutes. And we can do that because of the generative AI, because this allows Copilot to find and then present information from multiple sources. And those sources, by the way, can be internal or external. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the conversation booster, which allows us to connect Copilot to different data sources such as public websites, SharePoint sites, and even Azure OpenAI. This just came out. This just went GA, I think this past week. So it's very exciting. And this is going to allow Copilot to use the content from those sources to generate answers to questions without the need to create topics. And you're going to say, well, what's a topic? We're going to get into that. But topics are basically something that you have to manually configure. Somebody asks a question, right? You're going to configure what the bot is going to do. So obviously this is going to be a lot faster. Now, another part of generative AI is the ability to upload documents and use those as a knowledge source. Now, keep in mind the documents can be larger than 3 MBs. If you have larger files, I would just recommend, for example, if you have one large file that's 9 megs, I would just cut them into 3 little files that are each 3 megs, right? So you can kind of get around it that particular way. So let's just go ahead and jump right into the demo because that's why we're here, right? So let me just go ahead and pull up my demo instance here. So again, once you sign up for Copilot Studio, you're going to go to this screen. So the only thing you have to do in order to get up and running is you're going to go here to settings, generative AI, and you can see I already did this, but you can actually enter public websites and, like I said, SharePoint sources in here. So I just did rsmus.com and then I hit save. That is it. Now I'm up and running because let me show you why that is. Let me just go ahead and test that. So what is this going to do is it's going to crawl this website and even some of the subsites below the rsmus.com as well. And if you want more details on exactly how this works, I actually did write an article about that. And I'm also kind of talking about, right, the reason why I'm not putting www.rsmus.com. Right. So, but let's just go ahead and kind of put something in here. I know that we have some information about GDPR on our website, so I'm just going to ask that to Copilot. And what it's going to do now is it's going to look at the website and child websites and look at that. It's giving that information right back at me. You also see that it actually is referencing where it's getting that information. So if I click on that, it will take me to, as you can see here, this is why I did not enter www.rsm.com because I just entered rsm.com, right? Because now basically anything can be in front of that URL. That's kind of why I'm doing that. So some other things in here as well. Let's just ask about the COO here at RSM, because we also have that type of information, right? You can see here that's Bill Gorman. Again, if I click on that, we are now looking at rsm.com, and then right here is the COO at RSM. And then lastly, we also have a career site, which is careers, I think it's careers.rsmus.com. So now again, right, it's showing me these different websites. If I click on here, right, oh, this is rsm.com.careers, and I can even ask if we have job openings in Texas, and then it will show me the job openings that we would have in Texas, right? So again, right, this is kind of what I was talking about. How quick can we get up and running, right? Literally 5 minutes. We just go in here, put the website in there, and we are ready to go. And this will save a lot of time, right, for your internal agents, right? People that are actually interacting with customers and answering questions and stuff like that, because by allowing us to use websites, this is going to be a lot faster, right? And again, take that pressure off your agents, because the bot is going to be able to answer those types of questions. All right, now let's talk about some other components in Copilot Studio. So these are some of the things that we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of those generative AI features as well, but I first kind of wanted to explain what are some of the Copilot Studio components that we can use, for example, to build our topics and plugins, etc. Right? So let's just go ahead and start with the topics and plugins. And these are really conversation paths that allow your users or your customers or your prospects really to have a conversation that feels natural and that flows appropriately, right? So you can actually configure these topics using something that's called the authoring canvas. You can also turn them on and off, as you can see, or you can actually not see that in the screen anymore. That screen has changed, but we can also turn them on or off. So if you're saying, well, this one is no longer relevant, you can turn that off as well. Now, when you are actually first starting with Copilot Studio, so you started an instance, there's actually a whole bunch of system topics that come with the system as well, which some of them you can also edit if need be, but you already have some in there. And those are just the basic ones, and I'll show you those in the demo as well. And then obviously, we also have something that is called a trigger, and triggers are really used for topic routing. So somebody can say, they have a particular question, right? So for example, we're looking for, hey, I have a question about a credit card, for example, right? If it's a bank or something like that. You can then basically set those triggers so that if any of those words are used or phrases are used, and by the way, it doesn't have to be exactly the same trigger that you have configured in that topic, right? Because the system will learn as it's being used, but it's really kind of, again, used to route people to the correct topics. Now, there are obviously different types of triggers, right? So the first one that I just talked about were the phrases, right? Where somebody actually says something and then Power Virtual Agents, no, Copilot Studio will then know which topic it should take that customer or that prospect to, right? There's also other trigger types now, and that's actually pretty new. Right? When a message is received, what do we want to happen when a message is entered by a customer? There's also silent events, right? So Copilot Studio is also going to have an IVR, which is basically a voice bot, right? So then we can say, hey, if something happens, a silent event, like the start of a recording, for example, of a conversation, then we can route the bot somewhere else, tell it to do something else, right? Or if there's an activity that is received, and that activity obviously can also be a message or other things as well. or there's a conversation update received, and this is really used when you're using Copilot with a Teams channel, right? Then we have also for the Teams channel, invoke is received. So this is when the user interacts with the Teams app, maybe buttons are clicked or something like that. And then there's also inactivity. So for example, if there hasn't been any activity right, with that in that conversation, then we can tell the bot to now send a message saying, hey, are you still there? Hello? Or do you want me to, are you not there? Maybe I should just stop this conversation that we have. So we never had those before. Again, these are kind of new. We only had phrases in the beginning, but these are kind of nice to be able to use them when you're configuring Copilot. So again, I kind of talked about this, right? That these trigger phrases are keywords or questions or sentences that somebody is likely to ask related to a specific issue, and then the bot is going to route that user to a topic based on these trigger phrases. Now, a big part of conversations is really around natural language understanding, right? Which is the ability for AI or Copilot to understand what the intent of that question is. So for example, somebody might type in, hey, I tried to use my gift card, but it didn't work. Copilot will still be able to route the user to the gift card topic, even if that exact phrase isn't listed as a trigger phrase. So I kind of said that earlier, right? That Copilot really learns as people are interacting with it. Now, again, I kind of talked about this a little bit, right? The authoring canvas. This is where we are going to write our topics. So this is really where people will spend a lot of their time configuring those topics, because this is where you can configure questions, answers, and actions, etc. So admins can actually type the question that Copilot will ask to the user and then configure response types. We can also store those responses that we're getting from the user, and we can store that in variables and then perform actions based on what they said, etc. Now, a lot of this you're probably not going to use a lot because of all of those AI features that are coming to Copilot, right? So I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. All right. Now, this is kind of showing you all the different actions that we have while we're on that authoring canvas, right? So you can kind of see here, I can send a message, I can ask a question. So this is displaying a question from the bot, and then we can use variables to actually capture what the person's response was to that question, right? A user that was interacting or your customer that was interacting with it. We can also ask a question with an adaptive card because it looks so much prettier, right? So if you kind of know how to configure some of those adaptive cards, you can also use those to ask your questions. And then you can add conditions. We never had this either, not in this the way that we can do this right now. So we can say, if this, then go here, and this could be depending on different things, obviously. We can manage variables, right? Previously, we had to have a question in order to actually create a variable, but we don't have to do that right now. So from managing variables, we can create new variables, we can set the value of variables, we can hard code variables, a lot of different things that we can do here. Now, the topic management section is where in your topic, you can say, hey, now route them to another topic, or stop the conversation, right? End this topic. You can do things like that as well. And then, of course, you can also call an action. So this could be a bot skill that if you have somebody that's actually interacting with, it's more like a coding type of thing, right? When you're creating those bot skills, you can use them, but you can also utilize something that's more low code, no code, right? Such as triggering an action from a Power Automate flow. So you can build a Power Automate flow, as people are going through that conversation with Copilot, then at some point in time, you can trigger an action using Power Automate. And this could be because you're querying for data inside of a database, like for example, Dataverse or an ERP system or something else, right? So an example could be somebody is asking for an order update, right? Maybe you want them to authenticate first, because you can also set up authentication in Copilot. And then Copilot could ask for the order number. Once you get the order number in Copilot, you can then query your database, your ERP system, or whatever system that might be that you can connect Power Automate to, and bring details of that order back in that chat. So I'm going to show you how to do that as well. And then obviously there's some advanced options that hopefully we'll have time to talk a little bit about as well. But let's get back to that AI, because everybody's always talking about AI, right? You can get started actually really, really quickly if you wanted to use the ability that we now have, where we can create these topics, right, by using a description. So you're going to enter a topic name, and then you're going to enter a description of what you want Copilot to do, right? So let's take a look at that. So I'm going to show you how we can actually create a topic using AI. So I'm going to go ahead and let's get back here to my screen. So we're going to navigate here to topics and plugins, and you can see I have a ton already created. This is what I was talking about earlier, right? The system actually comes with a bunch of system topics, right? Then, and some of them you can even configure. So for example, if the conversation starts, you can see here it's, oh, is this correct? Yeah, here's my greeting. So something is happening here. This is actually something where I'm capturing some variables. So I edited this topic so that I can bring some variables over into Dynamics 365. Not important for this session, but basically what it does, it is redirecting. As soon as a conversation starts, it's going to redirect it to its greeting, right, topic. So it's basically saying, hi, I'm a virtual agent. And you saw that earlier, right? Hi, I'm a virtual agent, right? I'm a virtual agent. I can help account questions, blah, blah, blah. That's what it's doing. So that's one of those system topics that I was talking about. And again, right, we can edit those. You saw that I actually did that. Now let's go ahead and then create a new topic. So as you can see, I can create a topic from blank, but we're going to use Copilot. Yes, you heard that right. Copilot inside of Copilot Studio to actually create that topic. All right, so I'm going to call this reserve a table. So let's pretend we're creating this topic for a restaurant owner, and a restaurant owner that actually wants people to be able to use Copilot and then reserve a table at his restaurant. So I'm saying, right, let a user reserve a table, ask for the name and the reservation, the name the reservation should be under, the date and time of the reservation, and the number of people in that party, right, that the reservation is for, and then summarize that at the end of the message, right? So that's all I have to do here. I'm going to click on create, and it's going to think about it, and then it's going to generate that topic for me. Boom, boom, and boom. Look at this, right? I didn't have to do anything. First thing it did, because I called it reserve a table, I'm going to put like 1 in front of that so I can find it a little bit faster when I'm going to edit this in a later demo. It has some phrases, right? If somebody says reserve a table, book a table, make a reservation, blah, 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 blah. It grabbed that. It came up with those phrases because of the title that I entered. Then I said, let a user reserve a table at a restaurant, ask for the name the reservation should be on there. What name should it be under? Look at that. It actually did that. What date and time? I asked for that as well. How many people? And then I said, come up with a message and basically summarizing that reservation. Look at that. It did all of that for me. So now let's go ahead and I'm going to save this. And I want to try this now, test this out. So I'm just going to give it a second. I can actually also try this out without saving it, but I'm going to say, let's say what it has here. I'm going to say, I want to reserve a table. Okay, let's see here. What name should a reservation be under? I'm going to say Taylor, reserve it for me. What date and time would you like to make the reservation? Let's say, and this is probably not the best way, and this is why I'm showing you this, I'm going to actually pick a date in the past. We don't want that, right? So I'm going to say January 1st, 2022 at noon. Let's see what it says. See, it accepts that. That is a problem, right? How many people are in your party? Now I'm going to say blue, and it's not going to accept that because we're actually identifying the type of answer that we're looking for as a number, right? That's what this identify is doing. And I'm going to get back to that in a little bit later as well. So we can just say, let's say we have 200 people in our party, even though that's maybe not true. And now we're summarizing everything that I had, right? Even though that's in the past, which is a bad thing, but I'm going to show you a little bit later how we can do that. But before we do that, let's talk about some other things that we have available to us, right? So when we are actually working with messages and questions, we have some options there, right? So we can put in message variations. And I'm going to show you and explain to you what exactly that is. We can also show images, we can show videos, we can show data in cards, right? Basic cards or adaptive cards. And we can also have quick replies. Now, you're probably going to ask, what is all that stuff? And again, I'm going to walk you through that in the demo. You know what? Let's just do that right now, because since we're on it anyways. Now, with the question, as you can see, I have the ability to add, right, a message variation. So I can say, how many folks will attend dinner, right? I can do that. Now, oops, that is not what I wanted to do. Just add another one. How many people will be in your party? There you go. What this is doing is by adding that message variation, the system is going to pick randomly any of those sentences that are there. So one time it might use the how many folks will attend dinner, and the other time it might say how many people will be in your party. Now, this is going to make the conversation more unique, right? If a person goes and talks to Copilot multiple times, right? Because again, it will actually pick one of those message variations. The other thing that I can do, and let's actually do that over here. Let's just first actually send a message without a question. I'm going to say, I can help with your reservation. There we go. And even with this, I can do message variations as well. But let's say I want to actually show a nice image in here, right? I can do that. And I already have an image or a link to an image here in my demo script. So let me try and grab that. So here I could put in a title, or I can just go ahead and put the URL in there. And let's go ahead and do that. And oops, look at that. Now we're showing this pretty little image of our restaurant, which makes the conversation a lot nicer, right? So I can do things like that as well. And other things that I can do, right? I can put a video in there as well. And again, not just for messages, also for questions, right? I can put adaptive cards in there. So I'm actually answering and showing that in an adaptive card. But I can also put in a quick reply, which basically is a button that people can press, right? So let's say, oops, this is my image properties. I don't want to do that. So if I'm not asking a question, but I still want people to be able to say yes or no, I can do that in my, oops, for whatever reason is not allowing me to do that right now. I can put a little button on the bottom, and I can use that as a quick reply. So that's also something that is available. Now, the other thing that we can do with questions is actually skip a question. So this could be maybe because we already have the answer. So maybe you will have somebody that says, hey, my name is, or me, right? I'm interacting with the bot. I say, hey, my name is Dian Taylor. I want to reserve a table. You don't want the bot to then ask for the last name again, right? So that's how we could, for example, say, okay, we want to allow the question to be skipped. And if we go back here into my environment, let's go here to this question. I'm going to go to properties here, question behavior. And this is where it says that, right? Allow the question to be skipped. So if we already have that value in that variable, right, then we want this particular question to be skipped. Now I'm going to say ask every time because of my demo. I'm actually going to do the same thing. Oops, did I just do that with this one? With all of these, ask every time. Yeah, this was the one I did it for. What date and time? I'm going to say ask every time, because again, otherwise my demo is not going to be, and I'm not going to give him the information anyways. Let's do this again. Allow every time. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and save that. All right. So that's what we can do over here. The other thing that we can do is actually ask for a reprompt. So this could be, you can see that on the page, if the bot doesn't get a valid answer to the question, it can ask the question again. And you can also customize, right, what it is asking that second time. So if we look here, remember that I said how many people are in your party and I said blue? Well, the bot didn't understand blue because it's looking for a number of people, right? We kind of said that over here. So what we can do then is we can go to these properties, again, question behaviors, and this is that reprompt. If the bot doesn't get a valid answer, it could ask the question again. Then we can even say repeat once, don't repeat, or repeat twice. I'm going to say repeat twice. And then I'm going to say, I'm sorry, I didn't get that. I need a number. Can you please give me that? There we go. And again, right, message variations in here as well. So if we would now, again, put blue here in how many people are in your party, it's going to ask me that question, right? So that's kind of what that is. And more things that we can do with questions, right? We can put in conditions. So this particular one, do you guys remember that I actually put in 200 people, right, for that dinner reservation, and that I also put in the date that was from, right, previously that happened in 2022. So by using these conditions with or without Power FX, we can actually put some restrictions on those questions. So here we're going to say, right, if the party is less than 11, do something, right? So I'm going to show you how we can do that as well. And then obviously we also have, as you can see here, slot filling and entities, right? So for any bot to be actionable, it has to be smart, right? It has to understand what your users are saying. So Copilot comes with a set of pre-built entities which represent the most commonly used stereotype information in real-world dialogue. So we're using this to identify, right? To identify and tell your bot what to look for in unstructured text. So think about things like age, color, number, you saw that earlier, names, etc. So this really helps Copilot recognize the relevant information from that user input and even allows us to save that for future use. So for example, when a user puts in something costs $1,000, if you're using a money entity, then the bot knows the $1,000 represents the money type of information. The bot can then extract this $1,000, right? And then save that to a variable. It will only save the number 1,000, even though that surrounding information, right? When we said it cost $1,000 was text. So again, I'm going to go back here. This is kind of what we're saying where was it? Did I do any of that? I did not do any of that, but let me show you what I'm talking about. So we're just going to rerun this again. And I'm going to say, I want to reserve a table. And oh, look at that, the nice little picture. And this should be under, it should be under Taylor. So now I'm typing a whole sentence that says it should be under Taylor, but I'm telling the bot in identify, this is actually an entity, that I'm looking for a person's name. So when I send this, you can see here that that variable is called reservation name. We're saving the response in this variable. And then if I look here in my variables, reservation name, this is that variable, right, where that's actually going to be going. If I click here on test, I can see, right, that this is what was stored in that reservation name variable, only the name Taylor, not the entire, it should be under Taylor, just the name Taylor. So that's really what we're doing when we're selecting those entities. We're telling the bot the type of information that it's looking for. So here are some of those pre-built entities, right? Point of interest, temperature. There's actually a whole bunch of them. If you want to go ahead and take a look at that. So if I go here to my entities, you're going to see a whole different colors, cities, dates, date and time, blah, blah, blah. All that type of things is in here. Now, we can also create our custom entities, and our custom entities is allowing us to enter items and their synonyms as well in a list. And these lists can be used to group or to categorize words together. So for example, if you're building a Copilot to handle long questions, this is a good example for that, right? So I'm having an entity that's called long concerns. And if I'm using this entity, I am telling Copilot, look for any of those items that I have in my list. And you also have something that is called smart matching. That is part of the intelligence that's supported by that language understanding model. And it provides the flexibility to let Copilot take in the user input in a fuzzy way, right? Based on the list items that are in that entity. So when this is turned on, it actually lets the bot recognize items in the list, even if somebody misspells a word, or when they are using a similar word. So think about matching the word job to career, right? And then, like I just said, we also have synonyms, and those allow us to kind of expand that matching logic, right? Now, keep in mind that the smart match and the synonyms that you're seeing here, they work together to make your bot even smarter, right? So that's kind of what that is. And then on top of that, and I was waiting for this for a long time, right? You might need to actually put together an entity that, for example, represents, in this particular case, this is what I did, an order, right? So I'm using this to look at orders in my Dynamics 365 instance. So that's kind of what it's doing here. I'm using regex to put together a pattern and then save that order number inside of an expression. All right, so we already did a little bit of topping editing. Now I did want to show you something here. Let's go back here to reserve a table. And that was related to what I was saying earlier, right? Where I was able to put in a past time, right? This particular one. Which date and time would you like to make the reservation for? So let's go ahead and make sure that they can't do that. I'm going to go here to properties, question behavior, and I'm going to actually, you can, for example, put here in a condition, right? So I'm going to say, let's see here, my delivery date or reservation, which one is it? This is what date should it be? So I'm going to say, oh, oops, that's not what I wanted to do, properties. So this is about this reservation date. So I'm going to say here, my condition is the reservation date is greater than, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some power effects. I'm going to do a formula We can make this a little bit bigger. And so I can do two different things. I can say, okay, it has to be, right? The reservation date has to be past today, right? So we can do that date, time value. Now, I can also say it needs to be, we're also always going to be busy. So people need to make a reservation for 1 week out, today plus 6 days. So I can do that as well, right? So it has to take a week. Let's just go ahead and insert that. And if that doesn't happen, then I can say, sorry, reservations have to be made a week in advance. I'm going to go ahead and save. Oops, topic has one error. It's not liking this. Okay, let's just go ahead and see if it's liking it now. Date without time zone. What the heck is this? Oh, it just, I don't want this to be a date without time zone. I just want this to be a date. Let's do a date. There we go. Let's just make sure that there are more. Let's just go ahead. There's more issues. Question. Da, 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 da. All right. All right. Let's just do date time value now because I'm not sure why it's not liking this all of a sudden. Insert. So it doesn't have to be a date of, it just needs to be after today. So let's just go ahead and save that. And let's see if we can do this again. I, come on, want to reserve a table. I'm going to say Taylor again. What date and time? So now let's try this again. January 3rd, 2022 at noon. And oh, so normally it would actually tell me, sorry, right, that thing that I just said, sorry, it doesn't work that way. You have to choose another date. So for whatever reason, it's not really liking that today, but that's really what it should be doing. So that's kind of allowing you to kind of set those restrictions, right, in your topic. We can actually do things like that as well. Now, we also have something that's called plugin actions, and they are currently in review. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on them, but I did want to explain to you what they actually are. So this is really great because plugin actions don't really require a lot of setup because there's no need to configure questions. You're going to say, what? Yeah, there's no need to configure questions. The plugin actually has additional information that describes the purpose, which means that if there are certain data points missing to the answer, to answer that question, then Copilot will automatically ask for the information without admins having to configure those questions. And these plugin actions can obviously be created by admins, and there's different ways to configure these plugin actions. Now, we can actually, I'm just trying to click here. There we go. We can actually create plugin actions by using an existing Power Platform connector, right? And we know that there's currently over 1,000. This is the same connectors that you're using in Power Automate. You can also create a custom connector and use that. And then obviously bot framework scales can also be used for this. And even Power Automate flows and Dataverse can be used with this as well. And then plugin actions combined with dynamic chaining, we're going to go even crazier, which is also in preview, is going to allow Copilot to automatically respond to a query or a question without the need to match a trigger phrase, right, that I talked about earlier. So by using AI, Copilot will find the correct plugin action to run, right? So that's pretty cool, right? So let me just go ahead and show you that as well. So I have here a plugin action that is asking about the weather. And if I look into that, you'll notice that there's really not a lot to it. I just have this weather connector. And when I created this, I didn't have to enter any of this information. By the way, I did write an article about this as well. Basically anything I talked about today. And then I actually created a message to display using some Power FX, but you can also say, hey, I want AI to generate that message. I just wanted to be able to use some Power FX to kind of get some more information out there. So I will show you how I did that. So let's try this. I'm going to say, what is the weather like? I'm just going to say, what's the weather like? There you go. And now it's asking me, well, what's the location you would like to get the weather for? So let's do Seattle. I'm just going to say Seattle. I'm not even going to do a state. Okay, so the weather in Seattle is currently 40 degrees and it's clear. Now, it did not know which location I wanted the weather for. That's why it asked me for it. Now, if I ask, what is the weather like in Seattle? I'm giving it the actual city name. So now it's not asking me for that. So that's kind of what's happening with those plugins, right? So what I can do here, again, if I kind of turn this tracking on, this is going to allow me to see which topic it's using. What is the weather like in Boca Raton? Is where I live. Yeah. It's now bringing up that topic. So I do, in this particular case, have a phrase here that anytime somebody says weather, I'm calling this plugin action. That's what I'm using. But like I said earlier, I could also turn on, let's just go ahead and I have to think, generative AI can also enable dynamic chaining. And let me show you what happens then. I can track that as well, my tracing mode. So I have, before I do that, here are all of my plugin actions. And you can see my weather is in here. And then I have one, this is actually based on a Power Automate flow. And I have another one. So the first one, this one is going to find my contact ID by an email address. And then I'm going to create a case from that. So these don't have any of those trigger phrases. So I'm going to track what I'm doing. I'm going to say, I need to find my contact ID to create a case. There we go. And we'll be able to see how Copilot Studio is chaining those things together. So the last time I did that, it actually grabbed both, not just the contact ID by email, but also the case. So, okay, I'm going to say anna@gmail.com. And you can kind of see what it's filling out. And it's now grabbing me that contact ID. And then I'm going to be using that, right, to create that case. I'm going to try this one more time and hopefully it's going to pull up both now. So it actually makes sense what I'm trying to show you guys. Here we go. And okay, now it's doing it, right? So now it's binding both of those together. So you can see how easy this is going to be, right? By just creating some plugins and then the system chaining the right ones together. So that's going to be super, super excited. And some other things that I wanted to mention quick before we go over for some questions, right? We have the ability to publish this Copilot to multiple platforms. As you see, there's even a demo website that you can use as well. And then obviously you could put it on your own website, right? And all those on Facebook and all of these other things that we have over here as well. And I kind of talked a little bit about this already, right? Being able to call a Power Automate flow so that we can perform actions on backend systems, right? So whatever you can do with Power Automate today, you can call some of those actions and then, right, run that Power Automate flow and then perform actions on those backend systems. I already talked about this a little bit as well, right? We can also have authentication as well configured. And I think actually Tamaz actually did, I believe it was Tamaz that did a really nice video on how to do that. And then, of course, there's also a handoff to a live agent, right? So you can do that in Dynamics 365 customer service, but there's also some other generic live chat providers that are available as well. And if I go back here, let me just go back here to my topics here. So I just have to see customer engagement hub. If you go there, you can kind of see here all the different customer engagement hubs that we have here. Now mine is actually configured to talk to Dynamics 365, the omnichannel, right? And it's literally very, very simple. Where I can just connect this. As you can see, I just have to click a couple of buttons and then I am done. And of course, now it says not connected. Not sure what's going on, but I'm telling you, this one is connected, right? But all the other ones are available as well. And what that could then look like is my chatbot over here. I can just go ahead and put in my email address. Let's just go ahead and see if I can find Angel's email address. Let's just go ahead and do that. I'm going to submit this. Right, I can ask questions to my bot. And then I can also, I'm going to say agents here in a second. Just turn the sound off here. Just wait until it connects here. But that will then give me that as soon as I hit agents. Okay, let's just go ahead and do that. And it should say then that it's going to hand me off. See, it's actually recognizing me by the email address that I entered earlier, right? And then if we go here to customer service workspace, it should come in here and do that handoff to that live agent. And then I can continue that conversation directly here within customer service workspace. Let's just see here. There's nobody else logged in, so it should not take this long. Okay, let's just make sure that we're available. And we should also be able to see that ongoing conversation in here as well. And I'm not seeing it right now. So something is wrong here. But you kind of get the idea here, hopefully. All right. Questions?
Yes, I'm going to unmute the microphones or enable them, and feel free to ask questions. I have few, but first I will just do my housekeeping. Great session, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Super to hear the what is new and available in the Copilot Studio, not Power Virtual Agent, because they have changed the name recently.
I keep saying Power Virtual Agent too. It's crazy, right? It's like Power, no, Copilot.
Yeah, and you know, I have stopped with the free version of PVA, which is available in Teams, and it, you know, having this kind of session from time to time is like an eye-opening, because so many has been implemented already. Or
oh yeah.
Nice.
And now you can, and now you can switch back to make it easier, right? Because what I showed you earlier, those plugin actions, when you turn that on, that dynamic chaining, all of the existing topics also turn into a plugin action. So it should be able to then group it, not even looking at those, having to look at those trigger phrases anymore. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So much easier.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, just unmute yourself and ask. If not, then I will shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one, or maybe two, or maybe three. No, four, actually. Yeah, just a second. How many URL do you have? How many URL have you? Can you put to the crawling option in the Copilot Studio?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it used to be 5. Let's see here. Generative AI. I don't even know if it's still. Let me just. Oh, this one actually has www. Oh, that's right. It's because the other one. So rsmus.com. Let's see here. Blah blah.com. Hello.com. Let's see here. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. No 5. More than 4. There we go. There's your answer.
Yeah. So I have another question, because there was a discussion about the language, which languages are supported. And I think you should go and try it out by using a trial version, and then you will get an answer how many languages, because there is a lot of languages, as I remember. But the tricky question I have for you, can we make a one bot which is multi-language?
So currently, multi-language is actually something that is on the list that they're looking at. You can, however, translate a bot. And Dwayne Robinson, he's actually one of the PMs, and he has a great YouTube channel. I would definitely take a look at that. Let's see here, ServiceNow, blah, 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 blah. Natural language understanding. He actually did a video. There we go. This is how to make multilingual, excuse me, Copilots in Copilot Studio. So yeah, oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't translating it. It was actually you're making it. He added, I think, Spanish to this. So I would definitely check out this video on how to do that. Yeah, so you can do that today. It is a little bit, couple of steps in order to do that, but yeah, you can do that.
Great. And maybe one question more, if nobody is jumping. I have a question about topic transfer to another bot. So for example, you can
Yes.
imagine that you have another bot and you would like to transfer the conversation to another bot with the variables. Is it possible?
Yes, actually it is. So, and I can show you how. So you can see here, I'm in my customer service Copilot in this one, and I'm going to go to another Copilot. Let's just go here to Copilots, excuse me, customer service bot, upgrade it. So I just did this topic, right? That restaurant topic, reserve a table. So if I go in there, I just love this. I can just go here and open the code editor. I can do select all and then copy this. And then I can go to my other bot. I go to topics and plugins. And I'm going to create a new topic from blank. And I can do the same thing. I can say, I'm going to, open a code editor. I'm going to paste it in, close the code editor, and look at that.
Brilliant.
Yeah, there's so many great things about Copilot that it's just not enough to do this, right? This session in an hour, because there's so many things you can do. But I really love this particular one where you can just copy and paste things and yeah, you know, allowing you to, you can see here, it also kind of now brought over the description versus those trigger phrases, right? So it kind of now, because I have dynamic chaining on in this particular environment, so it kind of does that automatically. But yeah, pretty cool stuff, right? Pretty nice. Yeah. Any other questions?
I have one. How to be a good trainer for Copilot? Is there any course for this? Or,
I think there is.
I can be good developer for a Copilot Studio.
Yeah, so there is a Copilot in a day training that Microsoft partners are hosting. I'm not sure. Let me just Google that. Copilot Studio in a, it used to be called Power Virtual Agents in a Day. Copilot Studio in a Day. So here's that workshop
okay.
that you can do. So you can just basically Google for that, I guess, kind of try to find that. This one is actually in Germany. But yeah, so there are some of them out there that you can kind of take a look at for that training. Yeah, a lot of them are like same thing with Power Apps, like Power Apps in a day and so in a day, and so they have one for Copilot in a day as well. I actually helped with that content for Copilot Studio in a day. I helped develop that with Microsoft, so that was kind of awesome being able to do that. Yeah, great question.
Yeah, Dian, maybe you consider to come to Poland in September and do the training in, Copilot Studio in one day.
Oh my goodness, I would so love that, but unfortunately, my company, since we don't do business in Europe, they will not let me do that.
But this is a community, travel.
I agree. That's true. That's true. It's like I said, it's just such a great tool, and there's so many great things that are coming. You know what I mean? Like what I showed you guys earlier, being able to just very quickly set up those plugins, because if you're not a developer, plugins usually sound very, very scary, right? At least to me they did, but it's really not that hard. And I actually created, let me actually show you if you want more information about these types of things, especially like, let me just filter by category, Copilot, previously Power Virtual Agents. So I have a bunch of data of some of the stuff that I talked about today, if you want to learn more. So more information about that dynamic chaining that I just showed you, being able to create plugin actions, not just with a Power Platform connector, but using a Power Automate flow, how to do that. And they all come with a video as well on the bottom. I'm a very visual person, so I like to see that. And here again, that using plugin actions in Copilot Studio. I just wanted to show you this, right? We also have the ability to upload documents as a source for those generative answers. But I wanted to show you this because, again, there's just so much to learn about Copilot Studio, and I just wanted you to be aware of some of the articles that I wrote about it, if you are interested in learning more. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yes, super. Thank you.